Oye, 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 espérate y espérame. Pero vamos a hablar inglés.
No me llama Carlos, ese no es mi nombre, te voy a dar un cocotazo. Tienes que entender que soy muy fino, muchacho. Me da pique porque para ti soy un fracaso. Me da pique porque para los hombres soy Pegaso. Me da pique porque transphobia sobrepaso. Me da pique porque ellos son carrasco. Me da pique porque ellos son carrasco. Un carrasco, dale fuetazo. Un carrasco, dale fuetazo.
Que lo que, mi gente, and welcome back to another episode of the VAMOS HABLAR INGLÉS Podcast. I'm your host, La Reina Taina, and today, this is our May podcast. And yes, it is the month of the mothers of women, but at the same time, I think it's important to understand the root cause of the violence against all women around the world. So we're actually going to be reading my blog post titled Demanding Respect Through Violence, The Fractured Macho Mind. And we're going to be analyzing from my perspective and also from the Afrojoteria perspective why men, especially men of color, have so much of this internalized violence against themselves and against their own people, from a perspective of femicide, from a perspective of genocide of trans and gender diverse people. We're gonna have a great time. And just like the past two episodes, this is gonna be like audiobook style, so we're going to go straight through them, read it, no analysis, and we're gonna take the time to really digest and marinate the words that we're listening. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, my loves. To follow along, please visit my website at www.lareinataina.com/blog, B-L-O-G blog. And scroll through the blogs, you'll find it, Demanding Respect Through Violence. And for also, I didn't mention this in prior episodes, but I do also have a Spanish version in case folks would like to follow along in that perspective as well. Again, visit my website at www.lareinataina.com/blog, B-L-O-G, to be able to follow along with our reading for today. The title of today's blog post that we will be reading is Demanding Respect Through Violence, The Fractured Macho Mind, written by Reina Camo Vasquez Semino. And I quote, "A man is an individual who embodies humanity and preserves humanity. A woman is an individual who embodies humanity and preserves humanity. A human is an individual who embodies humanity and preserves humanity." My abstract. In Demanding Respect Through Violence, The Fractured Macho Mind, we delve into the intricate dynamics of masculinity, mental health, and patriarchal norms within Afro-diasporic communities. This blog post unpacks the concept of the macho mind, characterized by rigid, hyper-masculine ideals that perpetuate emotional suppression and aggressive behavior. By exploring the intersections of machismo, blanquitud, and patriarchy, we highlight the detrimental impacts on men's mental health and relationships. Drawing from historical context, contemporary cultural narratives, and empirical evidence, this analysis reveals how these oppressive structures reinforce cycles of violence and mental health issues. Scholars like Nisha J. Newton advocate for a transformative approach that embraces vulnerability, emotional expression, and collective healing, aiming for Afro-Jotek's total liberation. The post emphasizes the necessity of cultural sensitivity, community-based interventions rooted in transformative justice. By spotlighting organizations such as the Thrive Coalition, Brothers Building a Better Nation, and the SOAR Collective, we demonstrate how community-driven transformative approaches can foster environments where Afro-diasporic men thrive. The integration of Dr. Nisha J. Newton's concept of Black trans aliveness further enriches this narrative, advocating for spaces that celebrate joy, creativity, and resilience. This comprehensive approach to healing not only addresses the psychological toll of the macho mind, but also paves the way for broader social transformations and the ultimate goal of total liberation for Afro-Joteks and Afro-diasporic communities. Autobiography. I am Reina, also known artistically as La Reina Taina, a dedicated scholar and advocate for global trans and men's mental health, Afro-Joteks people, and all youth 25 and under. I hold a Bachelor's of Arts in International and Public Affairs under the Policy and Governance track, with a regional specialization in East Asia and Latin America and the Caribbean, from Ivy League institution Brown University. My academic journey at Brown was instrumental in shaping my commitment to researching, nourishing, protecting, and evolving the advocacy work surrounding trans and men's mental health. This multidisciplinary program, coupled with my personal and spiritual lived experiences as a displaced neurospicy Afro-Latinx, Taína, trans woman, and survivor, provided me with the analytical tools and critical perspectives necessary to address complex social issues, particularly those affecting marginalized communities. Through my career, I have focused on the intersections of race, gender, and mental health, with a particular emphasis on the Afro-diasporic experience. I am passionate about revitalizing Latin America y el Caribe by bringing visibility to queer, trans, and neurodivergent Afro-Latinx populations. Previously, I co-founded Logro, an equity-driven 501c3 and network of BIPOC and LGBTQ+ organizers during the height of COVID-19, while simultaneously completing my degree. My scholarly work is driven by a passion for deconstructing oppressive systems, disrupting epistemological boundaries, and advocating for transformative change. By engaging with a diverse array of voices and perspectives, including those of leading Afro-Latinx scholars, I strive to foster a more inclusive and compassionate understanding of masculinity and mental health. My research and advocacy efforts aim to create a world where all individuals, regardless of gender or racial identity, can thrive and achieve total liberation and their truest selves. As we celebrate Father's Day, and keeping a note, I'm gonna pause real quick. This was posted during Father's Day, and I know that it's Mother's Day, Mother's Day month. But again, everything is connected, and it's not to take away the visibility and the importance of celebrating mothers and putting mothers in the forefront during the month of May. But it's very important to understand the duality and zoom out and just look at the systemics for what it is. Anyways, back to it. As we celebrate Father's Day, it is essential to reflect on the complexities of fatherhood and masculinity within our communities. The patriarchal system that often shapes our understanding of manhood is inherently transphobic and harmful not only to men, but also to trans and non-binary individuals. This blog post aims to unpack the macho mind, the rigid hypermasculine ideals ingrained in many Afro-diasporic cultures, and its detrimental effects on mental health and relationships. By exploring the intersections of machismo, blanquitud, which is whiteness, and patriarchy, we can better understand how these oppressive structures perpetuate violence and mental health issues. Scholars like Dr. Nisha J. Newton highlight the need for a transformative approach that embraces vulnerability, emotional expression, and collective healing to achieve Afro-Latinx total liberation. Let's embark on this journey to redefine masculinity, challenge harmful norms, and create a more inclusive and compassionate future for all. Historical context, origins of machismo. The concept of machismo, deeply ingrained in many Afro-Latinx, Afro-Caribbean, and Afro-Indigenous cultures, finds its roots in a complex interplay of historical, culture, and colonial influences. Machismo, characterized by the aggressive assertion of male dominance and the suppression of perceived feminine traits, has long shaped the socialization of men within these communities. Understanding its origins requires critically examining the intersections between colonial legacies and indigenous cultural practices. Colonial legacies in the construction of machismo. Colonialism played a pivotal role in constructing and perpetuating machismo within Afro-diasporic communities. The imposition of European patriarchal norms disrupted indigenous gender relations, which often exhibited more fluid and egalitarian characteristics. As Dr. Dora Santana elucidates, and I quote, colonial forces imposed a binary gender system and rigid norms of masculinity, which became tools for controlling both the colonized and the colonizers themselves, end quote. The violent enforcement of these norms sought to eradicate indigenous practices that celebrated gender fluidity and communal living, replacing them with hierarchical and patriarchal structures. The transatlantic slave trade further entrenched these dynamics. Enslaved African men were subjected to brutal regimes that aimed to emasculate and dehumanize them, stripping away their agency and imposing a violent form of masculinity as a means of survival. As Alan Pelaez Lopez argues, the violence endured by enslaved Africans and the subsequent generations necessitated a reconfiguration of masculinity that prioritized resilience and dominance as mechanisms of resistance and survival, end quote. This form of masculinity, however, often translated into intra-community violence and rigid gender roles that marginalize those who did not conform. Machismo and blanquitud, the intersection of race and gender. The construction of machismo cannot be fully understood without examining its intersections with blanquitud, whiteness, blanquedad, whitening, and blanqueamiento, racial whitening. Professor Gisela Carlos Fregoso's work provides a crucial lens for this analysis. Fregoso highlights how colonial powers not only imposed patriarchal gender norms, but also racial hierarchies that privileged whiteness. And I quote, "The colonial project was intrinsically tied to both the enforcement of rigid gender roles and the promotion of whiteness as a standard of beauty, civility, and power." End quote. This racial dimension of machismo manifests in the ways Afro-diasporic communities have internalized and perpetuated ideals of blanquitud. The pursuit of blanqueamiento often involves the adoption of behaviors and attitudes deemed civilized by colonial standards, which included the suppression of non-European cultural practices and the reinforcement of patriarchal norms. As Fregoso notes, machismo and blanqueamiento are two sides of the same colonial coin, both serving to maintain social hierarchies and control over bodies. Indigenous cultural practices and machismo. While colonialism introduced and enforced patriarchal norms, it is essential to recognize that indigenous cultures within Afro-diasporic contexts were non-monolithic. Many pre-colonial societies exhibited diverse understandings of gender and power. For instance, the Taino people of the Caribbean had gender roles that were complementary rather than hierarchical, and their spiritual beliefs included deities embodying both masculine and feminine aspects. However, the imposition of Christianity and European gender norms disrupted these practices, aligning them more closely with patriarchal ideals. The imposition of machismo within these communities can thus be seen as a syncretic process where colonial influences reshaped indigenous practices. This resulted in a form of masculinity that was both a product of resistance and a tool of oppression. The work of Jafari Allen highlights how Afro-Cuban religious practices, while retaining elements of African spirituality, also absorbed and reflect the patriarchal values imposed by Spanish colonialism. This syncretism underscores the complex and often contradictory nature of machismo within Afro-diasporic cultures. Machismo in post-colonial contexts. In the post-colonial period, the legacy of machismo continued to shape Afro-diasporic communities, often reinforced by nationalist discourses that valorize traditional gender roles as markers of cultural identity. Scholars such as Maria Lugones have critiqued how post-colonial states perpetuated colonial gender norms under the guise of cultural authenticity. This entrenchment of machismo has had profound implications for the mental health of Afro-Latinx men, who are often caught in the crossfires of cultural expectations and the need for emotional resilience. Machismo's negative impact on mental health is multifaceted. The rigid expectations of masculinity can lead to significant psychological stress, as men are often pressured to conform to ideals that emphasize stoicism, dominance, and emotional suppression. This pressure can result in mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, and substance abuse, as men struggle to reconcile their internal experiences with external demands. The stigma around seeking help for mental health concerns exacerbates these issues, leading many to suffer in silence. Contemporary Afro-Latinx voices, such as those of Omiseki Natasha Tinsley, emphasize the need to dismantle these legacies through a decolonial feminist lens. Tinsley argues that, and I quote, "Challenging machismo requires a radical reimagination of masculinity that embraces vulnerability and rejects the colonial binaries that have long dictated gender relations," end quote. This perspective aligns with the broader goal of Afro-Latinx total liberation, which seeks to create spaces where all gender expressions are valued and affirmed. The historical context of machismo within Afro-Latinx, Afro-Caribbean, and Afro-Indigenous communities reveals its deep entanglement with colonial legacies and the pursuit of whiteness. These influences have shaped and perpetuated harmful norms that continue to affect men's mental health today. Understanding these origins is crucial as we delve into the fractured macho mind and explore how violence becomes a misguided tool for demanding respect. By unpacking these layers, we can better address the root causes and work towards healing and liberation for all Afro-Latinx individuals. The fractured macho mind, psychological impact. The macho mind is a term that encapsulates the rigid, hypermasculine ideals often associated with machismo. It refers to a mindset where emotional vulnerability is suppressed, dominance and control are emphasized, and respect is often demanded through aggressive means. This concept is deeply rooted in cultural narratives and reinforced by both historical legacies and contemporary media portrayals. Pop culture frequently glorifies the macho persona, exemplified by characters such as Tony Montana in Scarface or Dominic Toretto in the Fast and Furious franchise. These figures epitomize the macho mind, showcasing traits like emotional stoicism, physical toughness, and a relentless pursuit of respect and power. These portrayals reinforce harmful stereotypes about masculinity, promoting an ideal that is both unrealistic and damaging. The psychological impact of adhering to this macho mind is significant. Men who internalize these ideals often experience high levels of stress and anxiety as they struggle to maintain the facade of toughness and control. Empirical evidence supports the detrimental effects of these gender norms. A study by Fragoso and Kashubek in 2000 found that adherence to traditional masculine norms was significantly associated with higher levels of psychological distress among men of color. These findings are echoed in the work of Torres et al. 2002, who demonstrated that Latino men who strongly endorse machismo are more likely to experience depressive symptoms. The stigmatization of emotional expression and vulnerability among men is a core component of machismo. According to Mahalik et al. 2003, men who adhere to traditional masculine norms are less likely to seek psychological help, perceiving such actions as a threat to their masculinity. This reluctance to seek help exacerbates mental health issues, as men suffer in silence rather than addressing their psychological needs. The National Institute of Mental Health reports that men are less likely than women to have received mental health treatment in the past year, with only 37% of men with mental health conditions seeking help compared to 51% of women. In Afro-diasporic communities, these issues are compounded by the intersections of race and gender. The legacy of blanquitud, whiteness, and blanqueamiento, racial whitening, imposes additional pressures on men to conform to Eurocentric standards of behavior and appearance. As Professor Gisela Carlos Fregoso argues, and I quote, "The pursuit of blanqueamiento reinforces rigid gender norms and racial hierarchies, creating a dual burden for men who must navigate both racial and gendered expectations," end quote. This dual burden can lead to heightened levels of stress and anxiety as men struggle to reconcile their cultural identities with the pressures to conform to both machismo and blanquitud. The impact of these intersecting pressures is evident in the higher prevalence of mental health issues among Afro-diasporic men. For example, a study by Watkins et al. 2006 found that African American men who adhere to traditional masculine norms are more likely to experience depression and anxiety than those who do not. This underscores the need for culturally sensitive mental health interventions that address the unique challenges faced by Afro-diasporic men. Violence and respect. Violence is often used as a misguided tool for demanding respect and asserting masculinity within the framework of machismo. This dynamic is particularly evident in Afro-diasporic communities, where the pressures of machismo and blanquitud intersect to create an environment in which violence is both a response to and a reinforcement of rigid gender norms. The relationship between machismo and violence is well documented. According to the World Health Organization, men who adhere to traditional masculine norms are more likely to engage in violent behavior, both towards others and themselves. This is supported by the findings of Amado et al. 2005, who found that machismo is a significant predictor of intimate partner violence among Latino men. The need to assert dominance and control, key components of machismo, often manifest in violent behavior as a means of demanding respect and maintaining social status. Pop culture frequently glorifies the association between violence and masculinity, reinforcing harmful stereotypes. Characters like Tony Montana in Scarface and Walter White in Breaking Bad epitomize the idea that respect and power must be obtained through aggression and control. These portrayals not only reflect societal attitudes, but also perpetuate them, creating a cycle where young men emulate these behaviors in real life. For instance, Tony Montana's infamous line, "You wanna fuck with me? Okay. You wanna play rough? Okay. Say hello to my little friend," end quote, encapsulates the notion that respect is earned through fear and violence. Within Afro-diasporic communities, the additional pressure of blanquitud exasperates these dynamics. As Fregoso notes, and I quote, "The pursuit of blanqueamiento and the internalization of Eurocentric standards of masculinity creates a context in which violence is seen as a legitimate means of asserting one's manhood and achieving respect. This is particularly evident in communities where racial and economic inequalities create environments of chronic stress and limited opportunities for positive social engagement. The depiction of characters like Luke Cage in the Marvel series highlights the complex interplay between race, violence, and the quest for respect. Luke Cage, as a black superhero, often finds himself resorting to violence to protect his community and assert his identity, reflecting real-world pressures faced by Afro-diasporic men. The impact of these dynamics on men's mental health is profound. Studies have shown that exposure to violence, whether as a perpetrator or a victim, is associated with an increased risk of mental health issues, including PTSD, depression, and anxiety. For Afro-diasporic men, the intersection of violence and mental health is further complicated by the stigma surrounding both mental illness and help-seeking behaviors. As Smith et al. 2011 argue, and I quote, "The cultural norms of machismo and blanquitud not only promote violent behavior, but also stigmatize the emotional and psychological consequences of such behavior, creating a cycle of violence and mental health issues," end quote. In popular media, the glorification of violence as a means to assert masculinity is prevalent in music as well. Hip-hop artists like Tupac Shakur and 50 Cent often rapped about violence as a necessary response to disrespect and survival in harsh environments. 50 Cent's song, Many Men, speaks to the expectation of retaliating against those who threatens one's honor. "Many men wish death upon me, blood in my eye, dog, and I can't see. I'm trying to be what I'm destined to be." These lyrics reflect the lived realities of many young men who internalize the belief that violence is an essential part of maintaining respect and status. Addressing these issues requires a multifaceted approach that challenges the underlying cultural norms of machismo and blanquitud. Programs that promote positive masculinity, encourage emotional expression, and provide culturally sensitive mental health support are essential. As Tinsley emphasizes, dismantling machismo requires a radical reimagining of masculinity that embraces vulnerability and rejects the colonial binaries that have long dictated gender relations, end quote. This reimagining is crucial for creating environments in which Afro-diasporic men can achieve both mental well-being and social respect without resorting to violence. Pathways to healing. Healing from the detrimental effects of the macho mind and the intersecting pressures of machismo and blanquitud requires a transformative approach. Traditional methods that focus solely on individual therapy may not be sufficient. Instead, a holistic, community-centered model that includes transformative justice is crucial for addressing the root causes of violence and mental health issues within Afro-diasporic communities. Transformative justice. Transformative justice is a framework that seeks to address harm by transforming the conditions that perpetuated it, rather than relying on punitive measures. This approach is particularly relevant for healing the fractured macho mind, as it emphasizes community accountability, healing, and systemic change. The term transformative justice was coined by Ruth Morris and Giselle Diaz of the Canadian Quakers, with significant contributions from organizations like the Bay Area Transformative Justice Collective in California. One of the key principles of transformative justice is the belief that communities are capable of creating their own solutions to harm. The Thrive Coalition, a New Jersey organization dedicated to supporting the mental health and well-being of Black and Brown communities, exemplifies this principle. Thrive's initiatives focus on creating safe spaces for men to express vulnerability and receive support. Their programs include peer support groups, workshops on emotional literacy, and community healing circles. These initiatives provide a model for how transformative justice can be applied to support Afro-Latinx and Afro-diasporic men's mental health. Similarly, Brothers Building a Better Nation focuses on transformative justice by providing mentorship, support, and community building activities for young men of color. Brothers Building a Better Nation emphasizes the importance of fostering emotional resilience and community accountability. Their programs include conflict resolution workshops, mental health support groups, and initiatives that promote positive masculinity. Community-based organizations. Several community-based organizations are leading the way in applying transformative justice principles to support Afro-Latinx and Afro-diasporic men. You Are More Than Inc. This organization focuses on providing mental health resources and support for Black and Brown LGBTQ+ individuals. They offer counseling services, support groups, and educational workshops that address the unique challenges faced by Afro-Latinx men. Their approach integrates transformative justice principles by fostering a sense of community and mutual support. The SOAR Collective, an organization dedicated to the empowerment and healing of Afro-diasporic communities. SOAR offers programs that emphasize self-empowerment, mental health, and social justice. Their transformative justice initiatives include trauma-informed care, restorative justice practices, and advocacy for systemic change. SOAR's work highlights the importance of addressing both individual and collective healing. Latino Action Network Foundation, LANEF. LANEF provides various programs to support the Latinx community, including initiatives focused on mental health. Their efforts to address men's mental health include educational campaigns, mental health first aid training, and partnerships with local organizations to provide culturally sensitive mental health services. These programs are crucial for supporting the mental health of Latinx men by addressing the stigma surrounding mental health and promoting access to care. The Audre Lorde Project. Based in New York, this community organizing center focuses on the needs of LGBTQ+ people of color. Their Healing Justice program provides resources for mental health, wellness, and community resilience. By prioritizing the voices and experiences of Afro-Latinx individuals, the Audre Lorde Project creates spaces for healing that challenge the norms of machismo and blanquitud. Dr. Nisha J. Newton's concept of Black trans aliveness provides a transformative lens through which to view healing. Newton emphasizes the importance of reimagining Blackness beyond survival, envisioning a world where Black trans individuals thrive in their full humanity. Applying this concept to the healing of Afro-diasporic men, Newton argues, and I quote, "Black trans aliveness is not just about resisting oppression, but about creating spaces where Black trans joy, creativity, and resilience are celebrated," end quote. This reimagining of Blackness can be applied to challenging the toxic norms of machismo. By fostering environments where Afro-diasporic men can express vulnerability, creativity, and joy without fear of stigma, we can begin to dismantle the harmful effects of the Macho Mind. Newton's framework encourages a shift from mere survival to a thriving existence where mental health and well-being are integral to the community's fabric. Empirical evidence and statistics. Empirical evidence supports the efficacy of transformative justice and community-based approaches in addressing mental health issues. A study by the American Psychological Association found that community-based interventions that incorporate principles of transformative justice significantly reduces symptoms of depression and anxiety among participants. Moreover, these programs often lead to increased community cohesion and resilience, further supporting the mental health of individuals. For Afro-diasporic men, culturally sensitive interventions are particularly important. Research by Watkins and Jefferson, 2013, highlights the effectiveness of culturally specific support groups in improving mental health outcomes for African American men. These findings underscore the importance of community-driven, culturally relevant approaches in addressing the unique challenges faced by diasporic men. Healing from the toxic effects of the macho mind requires a multifaceted approach that integrates transformative justice, community support, and a reimagining of masculinity. Organizations like the Thrive Coalition, Brothers Building a Better Nation, You Are More Than Ink, and the SOAR Collective exemplify how community-based transformative approaches can foster environments where Afro-diasporic men thrive. By embracing Dr. Nisha J. Newton's concept of Black trans aliveness and challenging the harmful norms of machismo and blanquitud, we can create pathways to healing that are both empowering and sustainable. This approach will transition us into the next section, Afro-Hotep's Total Liberation, exploring how these healing pathways contribute to broader social transformations and the ultimate goal of total liberation for Afro-Hotep's and Afro-diasporic communities at large. Afro-Hotep's Total Liberation. Total liberation for Afro-Hotep's communities transcends the mere survival of individuals. It encompasses the radical reimagining and reconstructing of societal norms, systems, and institutions. This transformative journey requires embracing the rich tenets of Afro-Hoteria studies, grounding our struggle in the multifaceted realities of our lived experiences. As we navigate the intersections of machismo, blanquitud, and the macho mind, it becomes evident that our liberation is inherently tied to the dismantling of these oppressive structures. Reclaiming joy and radical love. One of the foundational tenets of Afro-Hoteria studies is the commitment to laughter, silliness, Black trans joy, and radical Black queer love. As Reina Gosset eloquently states, and I quote, "Our joy is revolutionary. It disrupts the systems that seek to erase us and reaffirms our existence in the face of adversity," end quote. In this light, healing from the macho mind is not just about addressing mental health challenges, but also about reclaiming joy and love as acts of resistance. The celebration of Black trans joy, as advocated by scholars like Dr. Nisha J. Newton, highlights the importance of creating spaces where Afro-Hotep's and Afro-diasporic individuals can thrive emotionally and spiritually. Intersectional realities and multidimensional justice. Our liberation is deeply embedded in the intersectional realities of our lives. Tenet 5 of Afro-Hoteria studies emphasizes the importance of acknowledging and embracing queer, trans, and gender nonconforming Afro-Latinx, Afro-Caribbean, and Afro-Indigenous lived experiences. Scholars such as Omisike and Natasha Tinsley argue that intersectionality is not just a theoretical framework, but a lived reality that shapes our identities and struggles. By addressing the intersectional nature of machismo and blanquitud, we can develop more holistic and inclusive strategies for mental health and community support. Decolonial praxis and transfeminista epistemology. Tenet 12 underscores our alignment with our decolonial Black, queer, transfeminist pedagogy and praxis. This approach is crucial for challenging the colonial legacies that have perpetuated toxic masculinity and racial hierarchies. Dr. Dora Santana's work on decolonial trans studies provides valuable insights into how we can deconstruct these oppressive systems. Santana states, and I quote, "Decolonial praxis requires us to critically examine and dismantle the colonial ideologies embedded in our understandings of race, of gender and race," end quote. This tenet calls for an active engagement in decolonizing our minds and our communities, fostering environments where Afro-diasporic men can redefine masculinity in their own liberatory terms. Embracing neurodivergence and healing-centered practices. Tenet 18 celebrates the acceptance and promotion of neurodivergent individuals within Afro-Latinx, Afro-Caribbean, and Afro-Indigenous communities. This recognition is essential for developing inclusive mental health strategies that honor the diverse neurological experiences of Afro-diasporic individuals. Dr. Nisha J. Newton's concept of Black trans aliveness aligns with this tenet, advocating for the creation of spaces where neurodivergent individuals can thrive. Newton asserts, and I quote, "Embracing neurodivergence within our communities is a radical act of love and liberation, challenging the normative standards that seek to marginalize us," end quote. Collective healing and community resilience. The journey toward total liberation necessitates a collective approach to healing. Tenet 21 emphasizes the importance of communal sharing and engagement of Afro-Hoteria art and knowledge. This communal approach is evident in the work of organizations like the Audre Lorde Project and the Thrive Coalition, which foster collective healing through community-driven initiatives. As Amara La Negra states, and I quote, "Our strength lies in our unity, in our ability to support and uplift one another through shared experiences and collective action," end quote. Moving forward. As we move towards the vision of Afro-Hotep's total liberation, it is imperative that we integrate these tenets into our strategies for healing and empowerment. By addressing the root causes of the macho mind and challenging the intersecting oppressions of machismo and blanquitud, we can create a world where Afro-diasporic and Afro-Hotep individuals are free to express their full humanity. This journey is not just about surviving, but about thriving, reclaiming our joy, and building resilient communities that embody the transformative power of love and justice. Conclusion/call to action. As we honor fathers and father figures on this special day, it is crucial to recognize the impact of patriarchal norms on our mental health and relationships. The macho mind, reinforced by machismo and blanquitud, has long dictated that men must suppress their emotions, exert dominance, and seek respect through violence. This harmful cycle not only damages men, but also perpetuates transphobia and other forms of oppression within our communities. To break free from these constraints, we must embrace transformative justice and the principles of Afro-Hoteria studies. By fostering environments where emotional vulnerability and community support are valued, we can begin to heal from the toxic effects of the macho mind. Organizations like the Thrive Coalition, Brothers Building a Better Nation, and the SOAR Collective are paving a way for such transformative change. These initiatives, alongside the visionary work of scholars like Dr. Nisha J. Newton, offer a path towards reclaiming joy, promoting radical love, and achieving total liberation for Afro-diasporic communities. On this Father's Day, let us commit to being better fathers, partners, and allies. Let us strive to dismantle the oppressive systems that bind us and work towards a future where all individuals, regardless of gender, can thrive in their full humanity. This journey requires courage, compassion, and a collective effort to redefine what it means to be a man in a way that honors our shared humanity and fosters true liberation for all. A man is an individual who embodies humanity and preserves humanity. A woman is an individual who embodies humanity and preserves humanity. A human is an individual who embodies humanity and preserves humanity. Trans people are humans. Research and authored by Reina Gamo Basquiat Samino. Published by Reina 2024 at www.lareina.com. At www.larenataina.com. Reina's life motto: to reimagine and challenge the self via art. There you have it, folks. I hope everyone has a beautiful month of May, a beautiful Happy Mother's Day, Happy Mother's Month, and let us use the information that we learned and the information that we learned about the 21 tenets of Afro-Hoteria and apply it to the movies that we watch, the media that we absorb, the books that we read, the conversations that we have with other humans, and understand that there is a specific perspective, a specific lens that Afro-Hotep people read the world through, analyze the world, interpret the world through, and I'm giving you access to that. So take care of it, do your homework. And as always, this is the VAMOS HABLAR INGLÉS Podcast. I am your host, La Reina Taina. Y como siempre, vete con Dios. Y que Dios te da amor, sabiduría y salud. ¡Mua!
No pasa nada, yo me lo hago.